So this is called solving them by completing the square. So you're going to want to make sure that you get your x squared and your regular x's on one side of the equal sign, everything else on the other side of the equal sign. Great, it's already set up like that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to space this out a little bit, maybe. So we'll say x squared plus 9x. I'm going to leave a little spot. Also, if you want, you can put plus blank equals 136 plus blank. We're going to turn this into a perfect square trinomial. So that's what we were essentially just doing. So remember, to do that, you just take half of this number, which would be 4.5, and you square it. Now, 4.5 times 4.5, I don't know, let me get a calculator real quick. Let's see, 4.5 times 4.5 is 20.25. So whatever you get there, you're going to add to both sides. 20.25 and 20.25. So what that does is it turns the left side of the equation into one of those perfect square trinomials. So it would just be x plus 4.5 squared. That's how that left side is going to factor. We completed the square. Now the right side, 136 plus 20.25 would be 156.25. Now we have an equation with a square, and just like when we were solving equations earlier this chapter, you can do the inverse operation. You can square root that, and that'll cancel out the squaring. But if you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other. So this will cancel. It'll just become x plus 4.5 equals. Now if you type the square root of 156.25 in your calculator, you're going to get 12.5. But hopefully you also remember that it can be negative 12.5 as well. So let me scooch this down a little bit. So we're going to have to set up two equations. X plus 4.5 equals 12.5, and x plus 4.5 equals negative 12.5. Now those are both pretty easy equations to solve. We just have to do minus 4.5 on each side. So we get x equals 8. And let's see over here, x equals negative 17. Cool. Now, they're not always going to be like that. Most of the time, they don't have decimals, unless I'm throwing some real tricksters at you. So this next one does not have decimals, so we'll be in good shape here. So we've got the m squareds and the m's together. So I'm going to space it out a little bit. And I'm going to put the plus blank on both sides. Now remember, how we find that blank is we take half of this, and then we square it. Now half of negative 6 is negative 3, and then negative 3 squared would be positive 9. So when we factor that left side, it's just going to be m. And then our second term is going to be negative 3. So m minus 3 squared equals 247 plus 9 is going to be 256. That's the hardest part right there. That's the completing the square. Now we need to solve the rest of this problem. So I see it's squared, so we're going to square root. Now the square root of 256 is 16. So we could say m minus 3 equals 16. Or m minus 3 could equal negative 16. We'll add the 3 to both sides. 16 plus 3 is 19. Add 3 over here, we get negative 13. So if you take both of these answers and you substitute them into the original equation, they both work. It's pretty wild, but that is another tool that you can solve these. So some you can solve by factoring, You can always